Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be taking a look around a couple of bookshops in Taunton, Somerset, which I visited recently in August 2024. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so we start off in Brendon Books, and this is, well, it looks like this is the only proper second-hand bookshop in the whole of town. There is, of course, a larger Waterstones. I think that's the only sort of new bookshop in town. But this Brendon Books here does second-hand and brand new books as well. So it's a bit of a hybrid. And this was just outside their store, and these books were £1 each, or 3 for £2, which is a pretty tempting price. As you can see, there was some vintage stuff there as well. And yeah, there was a couple of people browsing this particular, these are the boxes outside the shop before you actually get in. And I think, like a lot of second-hand bookshops that I've been to recently, there's no shortage of stock. There is plenty to get your hands all over, really, and to have a really good route round all the boxes and shelves, because there seems to be plenty of stock out there. And this is a good little idea for bigger bookshops if they've got spares or excess stock to clear it out. But yeah, some very, very cheap stuff there. And there we are, a little window display, nothing special, just a few select books. Then inside you can see pretty much every little inch of space is taken up with boxes of books scattered around the aisles as well. So it was very, very full. I didn't see any signs that saying books bought, but with this much second hand on the premises, you imagine that they would be buying book collections. And when we were speaking to the lady at the end, she did say that they'd had a very, very big science fiction collection come in, of which you could sort of see bits and pieces from it. There was stock dotted around all over the place, not just science fiction, but vintage paperbacks in general. So I did spy all sorts, but she didn't say how long ago, and I can't help but feel that we were a little late to the party. But I got a few bits and pieces, and the bits I did manage to pick up from both shops that we visited, I shall, of course, show you at the end. But this is just their general fiction. So their general fiction, they have the crime broken down, children's books, science fiction and fantasy. A few bits that crossed over that could have gone in either. But yeah, quite an eclectic selection, you could say. This bit eases into the children's section now. There was lots of good stuff there, and we were a little bit pushed for time, and we knew we had one other shop to go to as well. We'd already been through the Museum of Somerset. Now, that actually does also have a little book section of second-hand books, so we went there to view the Doctor Who artwork exhibition. So here's a science fiction and fantasy. As you can see, there's some good stuff there. You'll see some vintage paperbacks, some digits, new writings in SF. But yeah, I went up with my friend Andy and we visited the Doctor Who artwork exhibition. You may have spotted that video recently on the channel. Absolutely fantastic to see all that original artwork, including lots of Doctor Who target covers. So we were in town for that, and we thought we might as well check out the second-hand shops while we're here. And it really was just this one and an Oxfam, which was a dedicated Oxfam Books music and CDs. There we are, and then the science fiction sort of rolls into the crime section, and you'll spot odd, paperbacks, vintage penguins and stuff, and Pam books. Generally, the paperbacks were about £3 a pop, and the hardbacks, from about a £5 upwards for the stuff in the shop. I did pick up a couple of paperbacks, so that's quite nice, and it was like £8 to £10. So I left those behind. So I think, maybe that's probably why they're still there, is because they are on the more expensive side for the more collectible paperbacks. But I still picked up a couple of bits and pieces. Plenty of local books, and then non-fiction, of course, history, politics, biographies, everything that you would expect to find in a normal second-hand bookshop. Little section for folio editions as well. But, you know, apart from it needing perhaps a little bit of a tidy up, but there was just the one lady on the downstairs floor when we were there, so you know, it's quite a big area to cover, isn't it? Now, they also had an upstairs section, which was once again predominantly non-fiction books. Nice natural history section. But as you can see, stock everywhere, boxes, bags of new stock waiting to go out, and not quite enough room. So that's slightly more stock than they got space for, which seems to be the case in every single second-hand bookshop you go into these days. They've got more stock than they've got room for. I ran up Playfairs there, and I did see a whole box just stacked with Wisdom cricketing annuals. Thought, well, you know, surprised they weren't on a shelf somewhere. But, you know, even though we were there, I think we went up on a Friday afternoon. It was a really, really beautiful day. The sun was out. We were very lucky with the weather. And Taunton's a nice place to visit. I haven't been there for a couple of years, and it's quite nice to walk along the high street. Last time I was there, it was looking quite the depression. There was the old Woolworths building that was just like shut and empty. It's not the case now. The high street's far more bustling, and plenty to see and do. Museum area itself, excellent. You're sort of alongside the river, which we'll see at the very end. And definitely do recommend going to the Somerset Museum. But the bookshop, I'm afraid, was not much more than a table. So there really wasn't a lot to see or buy. But you have to check these things out, because you never know, do you? You just never know what might be donated or handed in just the day or two before. There's a few Buildings of England series. They're the ones I've got, sadly, but I'm after a couple of those. There's one of the hardbacks, actually. Asimov's Guide to the Bible there. Didn't see that one very often. He really was unbelievably prolific, wasn't he? And more history, of which there was plenty, and military history there as well. Yep. Little run of observers. Old ladybirds and what have you. Quite a nice media section there, and film section. Yeah, cinema. And there we are. That's what we all are, bibliomaniacs. And now on to the Oxfam shop, which is sort of 5 minutes away from that bookshop we've just seen, Brendon Books. And it's typical sort of Oxfam fare. You know, downstairs they've got modern fiction. You don't tend to see much in the way of older stock in these Oxfams, but they usually have a bit. You know, a bit here, a bit there, where they... I think Oxfam are better than some, where they will put some older books out, realising their value, but not always. There was a few books there, and I just didn't take them in. This is. They also had an upstairs section, and this is now upstairs, all full of books. A few bits and pieces in a cabinet. a few annuals and bits and pieces like that. But very much your typical bookshop, but nicely presented, well lit. There was plenty to see, which is what you want, and lots of people in there browsing at the time. And I did manage to find one book from the Oxfam, so that was good news. But yeah, they got a range of DVDs. Some of those sets were brand new sealed, if you can believe it. Some Doctor Who there, some fantasy, SF Masterworks. This is the SF and fantasy section upstairs. Some of the Glance Best SF of the year. Some vinyl albums, CDs. You know the score. A few video games and a few observers. Yeah, nicely presented. Nice little Oxfam shop. And then, like most of them, they've got an IKEA cabinet with a few rarities that tend to be well overpriced. And this was no exception. But as I said, I did manage to find one book, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And once we'd had a look around there, it was time to head back past the river over to back to the car park. Very, very nice walk it was indeed. Okay then, so in Brendon Books I picked up 3 paperbacks. The first one was this rather nice digit. Now they had a few digits there. Sadly they were ones, all the ones that they had I already had, except this one, which is digit 607. Kenneth Bulmer, Wind of Liberty. Very, very nice. Not a bad spine on it either. So I thought this was in pretty nice condition. And like a lot of their paperbacks, it was £3, this one. Got an address in Ibiza. Yeah, £3, that one. So most of their paperbacks were that sort of price. I picked up New Writings in SF. I picked up 2 editions of those, so I only need 5. I'm now down to 3. So I picked up number 10 here. This one I didn't have. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. I've been looking for these odd volumes for quite a while now, and I'm being quite picky with the condition. But glad to get this one. So this was, I said, £2.25 this one was. That wasn't too bad, I didn't think. Got Thomas Disham, an oldest. So that was number 10 of that one. And then I got SF16 as well, in the same series. Funky cover there. This was £3. As I said, a lot of them were that sort of price. Dedicated to John Wyndham, who must have died that year, like 1903 to 1969, and the hardback was published in 1969, this paperback 1970. So yeah, that was dedicated to John Wyndham because it was the year he died. And there, that was what was included in that one. Early Chris Priest there. So that's volume 16. So that was the books I got from Brendon Books, which is really, really good. And then in the Oxfam shop, I got this one now. What is this? What could that TC be stood for? None other than Truman Capote. And this is In Cold Blood. And it's the American edition. So it's Random House, not the British one, which I would have preferred. Now in paperback, this is published by Penguin. And I do have the Penguin first of it, although it's not pristine. But look, this is £4.50. And this is his last book, and also perhaps his most famous, After Breakfast at Tiffany's. Very, very good book. If you've never read it, it's fantastic. And rather surprisingly, it was the first print of this one. So you have first printing, there we are, 1965. So there we are, it's the first American printing of In Cold Blood. And I thought that was absolutely fine for £4.50. A little gift aid stamp on that one. So yeah, so although not in a dust wrapper, I mean a dust wrapper copy in really top shape is about £100. So for £4.50, I didn't think I did too bad on that. I just couldn't really leave it behind. So that was my little finds from Taunton. So if you're in the area, definitely worth pop in by, and if you're in Somerset, not that far down the motorway, you're in Honiton, where we know there's another 3 bookshops in Honiton, which are always worth popping into. So check out my Honiton video if you've not already seen that one. But yeah, do pop into Taunton. It's well worth it. So there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button for regular vintage, paperback and book content. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.